Our final is about the Venona project, a counterintelligence initiative devoted to crypto-analyzing Soviet transmissions. It began during World War II, when the predecessor of the NSA's Carter Clark didn't trust Joseph Stalin and was quite suspicious of the Soviet Union forming a separate peace with Nazi Germany.
The first Soviet transmission was not cracked until 1946, after Germany's surrender at the end of World War II. Russian and American troops shook hands and celebrated over the River Elbe. So the original purpose was not fulfilled. However, they did find something that worried them far more. They found communication between Soviet spies in America and their handlers in Moscow. During World War II, America made propaganda supporting their Russian allies. However, after World War II, America went directly from making propaganda supporting them to propaganda condemning them. The discovery of Soviet espionage through the Venona project contributed to the rising tensions between the two nations and to the start of the Cold War.
As Cold War tensions rose, the FBI noticed suspicious behavior and eventually closed down on illegal Russians living in the United States. In 1939, the FBI raided several organizations related to communist sentiment and made many arrests on passport fraud, which eventually led to the information on suspected spies. Back in World War I, the Signal Security Agency was intercepting and ciphered transmitted Soviet telegrams. A June 1942 agreement with the Navy and FBI gave exclusive responsibility for analysis of foreign, military, and diplomatic ciphers. The term Venona was an arbitrary code word used to describe cryptanalytic breakthroughs with these ciphers.
The messages were reduced into numeric code groups drawn from a code book. The code groups were added digit by digit to a string of random numbers. The random numbers, called keys, were known to the sender and receiver because they were printed on a one-time pad. Some one-time pads were intercepted and used to decipher the messages.
With limited success, the Venona project usually managed to decipher less than half of all the transmissions. The hundreds of messages that were discovered ranged in topic from the U.S. President to instructions for sleeper agents. The sheer number of spies found in the limited number of messages led to an overestimation of the threat the Soviets posed.
The Communist Party of America had been gaining steam during the Great Depression, and certain members were found to be sending information to Moscow and aiding Soviet spies. But as the government made more and more arrests, seemingly without evidence, it antagonized the communists, leading to tensions between communists at home and in Moscow. The discovery of spies in government agencies and the activities of the American Communist Party had made the government wary of spies. They started to enforce loyalty oaths on all government employees to help combat espionage. This idea that Russian spies were everywhere scared Americans and made Russian espionage a bigger threat than it actually was.
The Venona project placed spies everywhere in high reaches of the government and in the friendship of Roosevelt himself, such as Michael Straight, a family friend of the president, and Victor Perlo, chief of the aviation section of the war production. And at the heart of them all was Stalin. Stalin was primarily interested in four categories. As pictured on this slide, the intelligence he wanted concerned American intelligence on Hitler's plans for war in Russia, and any indication whatsoever that the Allies might cut a separate peace with Hitler and Nazi Germany.
Stalin also wanted intelligence on American scientific progress, specifically atomic weaponry, as well as the secret war aims of the United States and Great Britain. Even when they were allies during World War II, the US and Soviets did not trust each other, and the discovery of this trust further increased tensions after the war. The Rosenbergs and several others were identified as the spies thanks to the decrypted telegrams from Venona. They were tried and executed without the classified Venona pages used as evidence during the trial. This made people think they were executed just for being communist and increased the tensions between the American Communist Party and the government in the US. The theft of atomic weapons secrets helped to heat up the Cold War. The fact that Stalin, a crazy despot, held the power to end all life on Earth set apocalyptic undertones to the Cold War. This scared the Western world and brought the thought of an actual nuclear war into their minds, with neither sides backing down and disarming nuclear armories.
The Venona project was controversial for many reasons. The information withheld from the public could have cleared up a lot of distrust. For instance, in the trial of J.R. Oppenheimer, in which he was suspected to be a Soviet spy, the Venona papers confirmed that while he may have had a communist background, he didn't actually betray his country to Soviet Russia. Following the realization that the Soviets were indeed spying on America, tensions in the military and FBI increased as more and more raids confirmed enemy infiltration. The term ally no longer applied to the Soviets, as the illusion of mutual diplomacy was ripped to shreds.
In 1950, when the Soviet-backed North Koreans invaded the South, the Korean War began. Truman forbade the use of atomic weapons for fear of starting a nuclear war. Since Stalin had stolen nuclear secrets, America fought an actual war instead of using the threat of nuclear weapons. This was the first of the satellite wars to contain communism.
The Venona project was declassified almost 50 years later, in the year 1995. Its existence was even hidden during the war from the Commander-in-Chief, Harry Truman, although the public was lied to about U.S. knowledge about the depth of Soviet infiltration. There was good reasoning behind it. The discretion used surrounding the Venona project was wise in the end. The potential added effect of knowing for sure that members of the government could not be trusted would have intensified the Red Scares to levels that would have torn American society apart and only increased the effect of McCarthyism.
The Venona project uncovered the magnitude of Soviet espionage in America. Americans no longer had faith in fellow Americans, seeing Soviet puppets controlled by the Big Red Bear everywhere. This led to both countries increasing their espionage and undermining each other on the world stage.